Well, good, happy Saturday morning, everybody. Ronnie, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Older.
Welcome back. How did you enjoy your
55?
vacation?
I wear 55 well, y'all. Hey.
Happy belated. How was your vacation?
Traumatic. No, I'll take it. No, it was amazing. It was so good to get away. I do confess I worked a little bit while I was going. Y'all know I'm a workhorse. I did see some client. I did. My dad was like, really? That's what we're doing? And I worked on my birthday. I did. But I did. I only saw 2 clients though. I saw 2 clients on my birthday. It was just 2. It was just 2.
You must have forgot to tell them in that last session that you was gonna be on vacation. So you was like, damn, like, all right, look. I will see you at this time. All right.
You better be on time.
Really got nothing going on. Don't feel like
I'll see you later.
Schedule, all right. Like, don't feel pressed to not want. Like, if
right.
Everything's good this week. If you really ain't got nothing to talk about, if we just check in, text me. Like, hey, everything's good this week. Enjoy yourself. Like. You forgot
I had
to tell
a good
them
time.
You be out of town, didn't you?
Florida weather was erratic as usual. Because we were originally supposed to be going to Puerto Rico, and then with the hurricane and stuff, I was like, "Yo, negative. I'm not doing it." So we ended up going to Florida instead. Florida weather is bipolar, so it was all over the place. But overall, it was really a really nice, relaxing time. It was just good to just get away. And just relax. So even though I did work a little bit while I was there, it was still relaxing work. I didn't have to treat any of my really intense clients. I only had mild clients on the caseload while I was there. So it was all good. But look, folks, this is House Talk Pregame. You know who I am. I'm Dr. Lauren Pitts. I'm your couple, marriage, and family therapist, your sports mental health empowerment coach. You know who that nut bucket is. Hey, y'all did the darn thing. Thank you for holding it down.
Last week was a fun episode. It was really fun. It was a really intense conversation too. Like from jump, I said, I can't wait to get the conversation started and saying you could jump right on in and got it started, and we just went from there. But it was a really, really good conversation. So for those,
it was an easy on the eyes conversation too. I'm just saying. I'm just going based on the feedback. No, for real. I'm just going based on feedback because women are going to be women, and they're like, "Yo, the lineup today is a beautiful thing." Yeah, I was like, you know what? There were some good-looking folks on the panel. Yeah, so it was a great conversation, but it was also great eye candy for the whole time too. But y'all held that thing down. I'm actually going to listen to the show in its entirety when I get back. I'm always going to since I'm diehard. I gotta go get my nails did.
Remember what I said, the pregame portion of the show. Just remember what I said about when the DSM-6 decided to come out in a few years.
Yep.
Just remember we had this we can collaborate, man. We'll talk about that later, man. So look, y'all, Dr. Pitts, we glad you had a fantabulous vacation. Yes. Glad you brought in a new year, a new chapter, another opportunity to have more life and more blessings and everything, and hopefully see another 55. So glad you had that. Glad you're back this week. Huh? You said what?
You said another 55. No.
I mean, like maybe 110 then might not be that bad. You might be able to.
This. You know what? I say, I ain't Moses. No. Anybody trying to be like it was in the Old Testament before living to be 167? No, I wouldn't be out of here. I'm leaving.
But they had quality of life. It wasn't like they was walking around like not being able to do stuff. They had quality of life.
Yeah, well, this crazy behind world we're in, I don't know that I want to be in it until I'm 110. I'm leaving,
I feel you. I'm like,
that I understand.
Like this.
I might. You come tap me on my shoulder, like, Coach. Tell me bring my playbook, Coach. I ain't worried about it, man. I'm good.
I ain't worried about the midnight train to Georgia. I'm jumping on this train to see y'all. I'll see you when you get there. Hopefully, I'll see you. Bye.
In reference to speaking about getting that tap on the shoulder and bringing your playbook to the coach, we have a great topic lined up, and we have a phenomenal guest with us today. Super excited about having him on. We have Mr. Zinsu Tobiesi. I said that right?
You said it right.
There we go. Mr. Tobiesi is a former professional athlete and is currently a therapist as well. And is Fort Worth, Texas, correct?
Fort Worth, Texas.
Fort Worth, Texas. All right, so we got double Texas in the house today. So glad
But
to
he's
have
not a
him on
Dallas
today.
Cowboys fan, y'all.
I
He's
am
a
not.
Commanders fan. He's still in the division, but he's a
Hey,
Commanders
look,
fan.
see, you know what? I don't know what position you played, sir, but it sounds like you were in the trenches, man. And I like that because you right there in the trenches as a Commanders fan down there in Fort Worth, man. So I know you can take the heat when the game on the line. I like that.
Absolutely.
I like that. Sound like somebody I want to go to war with right there. Our coach used to say, like, he'd walk around the warm-up line and be like, you know what? I'll get into a bar fight with you. I know you got my back, And then he'd walk by somebody else and be like, "Now you can't go to the bar with me, sir. You can't."
Oh, that's disrespectful.
Hey, I mean, hey.
Sometimes
Sometimes
you can see and feel the fear off of people sometimes before
The
in
smell.
that pregame. You can just,
Oh, yeah.
you can see it. Like some people just not ready.
We got a great topic lined up. Our topic today is called "Is it really worth it?" The cost benefit analysis of playing sports. We know playing sports helps you stay in shape. It teaches you how to organize your time, boost friendships, and build relationships with your peers and adults. Through athletics, you gain skills that can be best acquired on a court, track, or field. But at what cost does it take to acquire those skills? And at what cost, short-term and long-term, does it have on your physical, mental, and spiritual health of playing a sport? So we're going to be talking about some of the pros and cons of playing sports, being a student athlete and being a professional athlete. Is it really worth it? Is it not? Are there other things, other ventures, and other avenues that you should spend more time of your childhood and adolescent years focusing on other than playing sports? We're going to talk about all that today with Mr. Toviesi and a whole bunch of a bevy of other things. So, sir, we're really glad to have you on the show today. Before we get into that topic, Dr. Pitts, did you have a mental health tip of the week you'd like to share this week?
I do. And I want to share it around the context of the cost benefit analysis. And certainly Zinsu is going to get more into this as he shares his story and perspective about this whole process. But I think that it's really important for our student athletes, for real, even our parents, and at the collegiate level, professional level, whatever the case may be. Folks have to be willing to do a cost benefit analysis. As we were talking before the show, about how we talk about it all the time, right? How athletes have tunnel vision. Everybody wants to go pro. Everybody wants to be in the NFL draft, the NBA draft, the MLB draft. Everybody wants to be drafted to play sports. Everybody, no matter how good they really are, they believe they're good enough to go pro. And that's fine. We're not trying to rain on anybody's parade. But this is what I want to encourage you to do. I want you to start thinking about what your current, like authentically in your heart of hearts, what is your current mindset about playing sports right now? Are you someone who has decided that you don't want to play sports at all? And, your parents were sort of living vicariously through you and made you play sports because you're going to do something positive besides sit on this couch and play video games? Or did you want to play sports? I want you to take a look at that and think about what is it going to cost you? And when I say cost, I mean everything: financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, everything. What is it going to cost you if you stick with whatever your current position is right now? So if you decide that, I do want to play sports, what is it going to cost you to actually play? If you're somebody who says, I know my mom and dad want me to play sports, but I really don't want to play. What is it going to cost you to not be an athlete? In contrast, what are the benefits of playing? What are the benefits of not playing? Think about that. And then as you're teasing that, and I want you to take what we call a holistic analysis of this, right? Don't just do the willy-nilly, oh, well, I might get hurt, or I might be a star, or I might not start. No, I want you to dig really, really deep, talk to coaches, talk to trainers, talk to other people that wanted to play but didn't, or didn't make the team because they got cut, or whatever the case may be. Have this whole conversation. And then once you get done all of that, based on your current perspective about playing or not playing, I want you to think about how important it is to you on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not very important and 10 being extremely important. how important is it to you to maintain the stance that you have right now here today about playing sports or not playing sports? And then the next thing I want you to do is I want you to think about whatever your position is, how confident are you in your ability to change your position? So if you're somebody who says, you know what, I'll never play sports, I don't want to, but after the show, you're like, you know what, they hit on some really great points. Maybe I do want to play, or vice versa. How confident are you in your ability to change your mind? Because as you're going to hear in our discussion today, playing sports requires a support system. And the reality of it is some people don't have it. It costs money to play sports. Some people don't have it, right? So think about that. And then the last thing I want to put on your radar is, regardless of what your position is, to play or not to play, what would it take for you to change your mind? What would it take for you to change your mind? That's all I had.
I don't think, if I think back on, like, if there was anything else, I will say this though, as I'm gonna take this stance already in the show. I think there are way more benefits than it is not benefits of playing sports. And, you know, I'll get into all those reasons as we get into it. But if there was one thing I would say I would go back and do is I would probably play more sports.
Wow.
You know, I did this to myself, and I see they talk about it a lot, especially with coaches. And I kind of did this to myself. You know, I ain't know no better. Is I was always, you know, just one sport minded. Like, you know, I knew I was really good at football at an early age, knew I could, you know, take it, you know, as far as I wanted to, but I didn't really give any other sports a shot, you know, not that I didn't want to, it's just, I didn't feel like I, you know, would be good enough at it, or, you know, not, you know, going to be as talented as I was at football. So the only other sport I really did was track. And, you know, when I always think back to it, I was like, man, if I even gave track a little bit more effort and put a little bit more time into it, track was fun. Like doing shot put and discus and the field events was really fun. And the big boy relay, you know, that was fun too. You know, I was the third leg in the big boy relay. You know, I held it down. I'm not gonna say my 100 time. Matter of fact, for my size, I was 285 pounds in high school. I ran a 13-1 in the 100. You know, I didn't come in last. I know that is extremely slow. You know, I'm not gonna beat Usain Bolt in any way, shape, or form. But you know, so I will say maybe not. You know, was there not a benefit? But I probably would have benefited more playing multiple sports, just having, you know, those different avenues, those different outlets, and things like that. Probably the cost benefit of that probably would have benefited me a lot more going forward than not have playing multiple sports. So I do appreciate you, you know, sharing that. I do think that was important. Mr. Toviese, did you want to share any a mental health tip of the week or something, you know, for people to you know, take with them going into the new week?
Mental health tip of the week, I would say, kind of going along to what the topic is. Whatever it is that you want to accomplish in your life, you have to consider the cost. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, consider the cost. It basically just means, like, are you willing to go through whatever it is that you need to go through to get to point B, period. And now you have to start writing down what I got to do. I got to get a degree to be able to be a mental health therapist. I got to get a master's degree. I got to pass the LPC exam. I got to do this. These are different things that you have to do to become a mental health clinician. It's the same thing, whether you want to be a lawyer, whether you want to be a football player, basketball player, it does not matter. You have to know what the journey is going to entail. Now, are there going to be surprises? Absolutely. But if you are 16, 17 years old and you are hell bent on, I want to do this with the rest of my life. Okay, well, start writing down what the road looks like, what obstacles could possibly get in your way, and start planning now, because if you don't plan, it's a high likelihood that you will fail in most situations. Because most of us can't just fly by the seat of our pants and win. Like, that's just not realistic, you know, for most people. Unless, you know, you have a security blanket like some people do, like unless your parents are just rich and you can just keep trying stuff until something sticks, that's different. But for the average person, you know, your resources are limited. So you can't just throw it on the wall and hope that it sticks, because then that sets you back 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you know, if you make a wrong decision, you know. So overall, I would just say focus on whatever it is that's important to you, and figure out, can you do it? Can you handle whatever it takes to get to the end of the road? And most people don't think about that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate you sharing that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and transition into the topics of, is it worth it? So Mr. Toviese, please, for the people who don't know you, kind of give us a little bit of your background of, growing up, playing sports, and then how you became a LPC.
Got it. So grew up was born in Washington, D.C. Lived there for about 11 or 12. And then my parents moved to what they call Alexandria, Virginia, which is basically a suburb. They was trying to get away from the violence and all that and hoping that, they could provide a better life for their kids, which, worked out pretty good, in my opinion. So I think the move was a good thing. But so my experience growing up is we were kind of like alienated, kind of outcast, because both of my parents were born in Africa, moved here, got married, started having kids. So me and all my sisters were first generation American. And it's cool to be African now. And they since, Black Panther and all that came out. But I'm talking about, in the 80s and the 90s when it wasn't cool to be African, when you were set apart, like you were ridiculed, you were considered different, So I kind of grew up in that era where, not a lot of people, interacted with my family in general. Oh, but boy, when I started playing sports and everybody wanted to be my best friend, then now everybody coming along and everybody cool with you now, And so, going through that whole process and then becoming, an athlete in high school. I played basketball, football, I ran track, kind of was trying to figure out which direction I wanted to kind of go in to kind of settle on. And I chose football only because that was like, a good anger outlet for me at the time. So I get to hit people. And so wound up going to college and played in college at Marshall University, got drafted into the NFL, got hurt, had to retire because of my knee, and, took a journey and actually took a couple different type of career paths trying to get to mental health clinician, and then finally got to where I needed to be. And now I'm, clicking on all cylinders, just excited about what God is going to do next.
Word. Thank you for sharing that. So let me go ahead and ask the first question, and it's the title of our show. For you, was it worth it? And when I say that, the totality, Lord, I can't messing that word up, of being a high school athlete, student athlete in college, and, becoming a professional athlete, reaching that, penultimate goal of, reaching the professional leagues, and then the real work begins. So for you, from a physical, spiritual, and mental aspect, was it worth it for you to go through that journey of becoming a professional athlete and then, venturing off, afterwards?
Absolutely. It was, it's to me, the benefits outweigh all the negative stuff. And I know certain people and I played football, that was my sport of choice. I know some people shy away from that because of the violent nature of it now. And I'm not saying that they're not right to some degree, but some people just have it in them. They just warriors. Like they are drawn to that, and there's nothing you're going to say or do to be able to stop them. For instance, I have a son who's 18 and is in college now. And I tried to get him to not play sports, like football specifically, when he was younger. And he wasn't trying to hear that. You know what I mean? Like, he just like, this is what I'm doing. And maybe because dad made it to the NFL, that maybe that's in his mind, he was like, I have to do it too. But, I learned through that experience that you can't force a kid not to play. Like you can, technically, but you're going to kill the kid's spirit. And that's not, as a parent, I don't think you should do that. Now, do you put extra precautions in place to try to help them not get injured? Yeah, you absolutely need to do that. But to just, tell a kid they can't play a sport that they love, that they see all their kids playing, all their friends playing outside, is just, to me, I think that's a little cruel. But that's just my take on it. I do have friends that are real good friends of mine who do not allow their kids to play football, and I understand and I get it. I disagree, but at the same time, that's not my kid, so they have to respect their decision. But for me, I would say it's a resounding yes. The things that I've learned about being mentally tough, the things I've learned about being able to persevere, the things I've learned about how to manage people playing sports all my life, dealing with people that you personality wise, you just like, you really want to come across that table and give them some hands real quick, but then you learn like, okay, I have to learn to be professional and get along with somebody I do not like, somebody that I would not hang around. And real talk, if he wasn't my teammate, I would already put hands on him already a long time ago. But you have to learn how to deal with people, who you don't necessarily like. And then you learn how to manage different personalities and learn how to to me, it's not just the physical aspect of being in shape, but it's the socialization that you learn from sports, the mental toughness, the getting up in the morning and going to work out when you don't want to do it, you don't feel like doing it, but you're doing it for an end goal. There's some things that I've, been through in my life that I know for a fact, going through therapy and my own personal therapy and witnessing other people that made them fold, like they was like done, out for the count. And I've been able to persevere through those things. And I attribute it mainly to my mental toughness, like being able to go through sports and learning that not everything's going to go good all the time. Matter of fact, if you want to be honest, it's going to go bad sometimes. And you got to have the mental fortitude to understand that, okay, things are going bad. It's not our game right now, but are you going to give up? You're just going to quit. You're just going to lay down. Whether we win, lose, or draw on this game, it says a lot about a team if they quit, in my opinion. So I'm watching. The one thing I will say about the Texans that everybody thought they were going to get routed like 45-50-0. They came and fought that last game on Thursday night, even though they knew they were outmatched, and it was clear, in probably the third quarter that this game was over. That it was pretty much over, but they kept fighting and they kept fighting. And to me, that says a whole lot about the coaching staff, because the week before they gave up. They got beat early, and then they folded, and you could tell they gave up because it just got bad, And so, as a coach, that's how coaches get fired when they see your team do that. It's not because you don't have the talent, but you can't teach talent. But what you can teach is somebody being able to persevere and not give up and say, okay, well, this ain't our day, so we just gonna pack it in and let them do whatever they want to do. No, you got to fight to the very end, because in life you're gonna have to fight to the very end. There's things that I've been through, there's things that are coming up in my life, that I'm going to have to persevere through and be mentally tough to be able to deal with, and all of that, in my opinion, stems from me playing football and playing sports in general, and just learning, like, I never had the silver spoon. My mom was basically a maid. She used to clean people's houses. My dad was a driver for an embassy in DC, and he would drive a cab on the weekends to make ends meet. Neither one of them had more than a third grade education, but yet all of their kids have graduated from college, and all of them have at least a master's degree. A couple of them have PhDs. So they sacrificed and did what they could to help us get to a better place in life, as we should continue to do for the next generation, which I think is part of the disconnect in our current situation. But that's a whole nother topic that we won't get sidetracked on. But for me, it's 100% yes. Even with 8 surgeries on my right knee that I had to retire from because of football.
Did you say 8?
8 surgeries. Just had a surgery 3 weeks ago. I'm non-weight bearing for another 3 weeks, and then I got to have another surgery sometime in December again, to re-implant a titanium knee into my leg. Even all that, I remember a few weeks ago, right after the surgery. This is literally the day of the surgery, and I'm sitting in my bed, and I'm halfway waking up from the surgery. And I just remember laying in the bed like, here we go again, because this is number 8, and I was just like, here we go again. All right, so we got to prepare myself mentally. So I started thinking about, the next days and weeks to come, because, the first 2-3 weeks is the hardest, because the pain is at an all-time high. Even, in the first month or 2 from a knee replacement, your pain is at an all-time high. So if you don't manage the pain well, it's going to really disrupt your life in general, and then couple that with the fact that I can't even walk right now. Like, I literally can't put any weight on my right leg because I don't really have a knee in there. It's basically just antibiotics and a spacer so that it doesn't close up all the way. So it's, but even with all of that and dealing with all that, like, the things that I've learned from playing sports, I just are invaluable. That I just, love my dad to death. He taught me a lot. But my dad was not a person who was able to verbally communicate feelings and how he felt about you and things like that. He grew up in a generation, in a culture where your job was to go earn, and you come home and bring home the money to your family. And that's all you owe them. You don't owe them no hugs, no kisses, no affection.
No, I love you. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't owe you none of that. I'll just owe you. I go hard. I go to work. I work hard, and I bring home the money to provide for my family. So although my dad was there, he wasn't there in the sense of, he wasn't somebody I could talk to and be like, Dad, I'm struggling with this. What do I do? And then he didn't know nothing about sports anyway, because he was coming from a whole nother country and did not even know American football. Funny story. I should tell my parents, because I was practicing my autograph in elementary school. That's how dedicated mentally I was
Wow.
that I was going to the NFL. And I used to tell teachers, I got in trouble. That's the only reason why I remember this. I got in trouble with my dad because my teacher called my dad. It was like, he telling me he practicing his autograph because he going, at that time, I didn't know if I was going to the NFL or the NBA. I felt like I had my choice on which one I would do. And so the funny part is like, my dad was always working, wasn't able to come to a lot of my high school games and things like that because he had to sacrifice, to provide for our family. And so he didn't come to any of my high school games, basketball or football, track, anything. So my first college game is on ESPN. We're playing West Virginia, and the commentator, it was Mel Kiper, the draft guru guy. He was commentating for the game. So he's like, this kid Toviesi is going to be playing on Sundays one day. I was like, he's got the frame, he's fast. So my dad calls me after the game. He's like, you didn't tell me you was going to the NFL. Dad, I've been telling you this for like the last, I don't know how many years. I've been telling you this. He said, yeah, but I just thought that's what you believe. Like, I didn't think that was true. Like, so all of a sudden, my dad started coming to all of my college games. So every time he comes to the game, I just look at him like, Dad, that's wrong, right? He just be like, this is a funny story. I'm like, Dad, like, what did you say?
I know you was serious.
Yeah, so it took a commentator on ESPN for you to confirm, oh, my son is really good. Like, he can actually play.
I love it.
I'm just like,
wow.
Oh man.
Wow.
Man, that's real, man. Man, you said so many things, man, that I can just relate to. Like, even like I'm 5 knee surgeries in. I've had
and 32 concussions.
Ooh.
Yeah, man. I played offensive line my entire football career, so you already know, like,
yep.
I played all 5 positions.
So you in the trenches.
Oh, okay. You already know. Back then, up until I got to high school, we didn't call them concussions, and even in high school, like when I was in high school, is when they first started to really call them concussions. And I remember I had one my junior year. It was my first like legit real concussion where, like, I tell people all the time, when I can't, like, I hit the dude with the top of my helmet, and when I hit the ground, I woke back up. Like, it was boom, boom. And I thought I was fine. 45 minutes later in the practice, when I'm trying to get into my stance, I see 3 hands. And I'm like, yo, I don't even know which hand to like lean on right now to get in my stance. And I'll never forget it. Like, when I went off the sideline and told the trainer that, and she told the coach that I couldn't practice because I had a concussion. Boy, you'd have thought I told him I quit. Like, yo, I got called.
They didn't respect that as an injury back in that time. That wasn't a legit injury.
And this was 2000. This was 2009. Like, this was 2009. Like, that's not that long ago. Like,
it's not. But see, there's a difference between the propaganda that they put out. Oh, we making the game safe. We making the game safe. But underlying in reality, most coaches at that level, they looking at you like, you what? You got.
And I tell people all the time,
you better
like,
get back in that game.
Even the higher level you go, like, people don't understand, like, when you get injured, it's like nobody wants to get injured, and nobody wishes injury on anybody in any sport. However, we know as athletes, like, when you get injured, our competitive mindset already kicks in, like, yo, that's giving somebody else an opportunity to take my spot. And we've seen it so many times, decade after decade, sport after sport, whether it's Tom Brady, whether it's, I think, Mickey Mantle when he took Lou Gehrig's spot or whatever. Like, we've seen this in every sport year after year, that if you get hurt, there is a great possibility that you can lose your spot. And and people can poo-poo on a concussion all you want to. I always tell people, until you've had a legit concussion, like, you don't understand what it's like to have your head ringing for a week straight. Like, any type of light, any type of noise, like, it's just intensified that entire time. It doesn't feel good. But when you are a 16-year-old kid and you got this grown man, like, calling you everything but a blessed child of God because you see 3 hands on the ground when you get in your stance, now you're sitting there looking like, well, I damn sure can't tell him this no more. Like,
Exactly.
and I always tell people, like, I've probably had over 30 real concussions because back then it was like, you just didn't say anything. Yeah. Like, you got your bell rung, you saw the little stars all in front of you and stuff. Your head might feel a little woozy. You might hear a ringing noise, or you just got your bell rung, keep it pushing, and then with knee surgery, man, when you talked about not being able to walk, I had 4 knee surgeries in the span of 2 years, my last 2 years in college. And I tore my meniscus each time. And my final 2 seasons, I played with both meniscuses torn in my knees. And I always tell people, like, I had to get a lidocaine shot before every game. And if I didn't get it before the game, I got it during halftime just to see, you know, what side was going to last longer. And then would take like, you know, 15, 20 pills a day just to be able to go to practice, just be able to get through practice, be able to get through rehab, like put my body through literal hell for 2 seasons because I was so afraid of losing. I was on full ride scholarship. So you already know the added pressure of being on a full ride. It's like, if you sneeze wrong, hey, look, sir, we're not going to renew your scholarship for the next season, you know, whatever the case may be. And then going at a D2 black school where we only have 35 scholarship positions, but you have a team of 90 people. We only had, I think it was 7 of us that were on full rides. The rest of those 28 scholarships was divvied up amongst the team. So right then and there, it already kind of causes some division amongst your teammates because it's like everybody else is scrapping nickels together, student loans, you know, or just walked on. Meanwhile, you know, here you are, full ride, got a knee injury, ain't practicing, only playing in games. People look at you different. So it's like all this added pressure and stuff. And you tell yourself, like, I never, to your point about the surgery, when I had my 3rd knee surgery, I never forget it. When they wheeled me back into the operating room, one of the dudes who was on the surgery team looked at me. He was like, yo, weren't you just here 2 months ago? And I just like, I really like started to tear up because like in my mind, I'm like, yo, I'm being punished. Like, you know, like I didn't get it. When I had my 2nd knee surgery, I knew my chance of the NFL was a wrap, you know, like because I'm a center at a D2 school in a small conference where, you know, linemen are already not that big to begin with. And I'm on my 2nd knee surgery and it ain't getting no better. I knew at that point my NFL career was a wrap, or any chance of trying to have a career was a wrap. So then you start automatically asking yourself, like, what the hell did I just put my body through? Like, I just sacrificed my body.
I want to ask a question around that. Finish it up, Ronnie, because I have a question for both of you around it. Because my mom sensories are going nuts right now.
So it's like, you know, you start to, I mean, and like you said, like each time I had knee surgery, I couldn't walk for 6 weeks. So, you know, I would wake up, go do rehab, rest of the day to myself. Would have to, you know, crush the class, got my leg propped up on the desk and everything, got to sit by myself because can't nobody sit around me by my leg. And it was just an isolating feeling for so long. And it's just like, yo, like, what am I really doing? Why am I putting my body through this? And it's hard to remind yourself in that moment of all the benefits that football brings. And it's funny, and it's funny we're having this conversation because this morning before the show, I saw this clip. I don't know if you're familiar with the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark, Fred Taylor, and Channing Crowder and everything. They just had Martellus Bennett on there. I don't know if the episode's dropped or not, but they just had him on there. And I didn't know this. Apparently, he walked away from a substantially large contract extension. I think it was almost up to worth $40 million contract extension. And he walked away. And he was like, yo, I was not happy. Like, you know, I was not happy with the totality of my football career. And so Channing kind of pressed him on it. And he was like, bruh, like, if you playing in kids' games, making millions of dollars, going out there, you know, playing and whatnot, going to the Pro Bowl and everything, that's on you not to enjoy it. And so his rebuttal was this. He was like, playing football or playing a sport is almost like a amusement park. You know, any roller coaster ride, whether it's the really big ones, the really fun ones, or whatever the case may be, they only last anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds any given time. But you might stand in that line for 45 minutes to an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours for that 15, 20 seconds of enjoyment. And so his point was, you know, for him, it was like, football and sports, you have moments that we grasp onto. Like you were just talking, like there's moments of the locker room you remember. There's moments of games you remember. Maybe some certain practices, whatever. Well, you know, if you got, you know, trash in practice or the coach was just wilding in practice, we all got those stories. But when you think about some of the totality of it, like a lot of the grunt work, the day in and day out of, you know, being a student athlete, the schedule that, you know, people don't respect and appreciate. A lot of those times that it's hard to appreciate some of those good moments and the benefits when, you know, you feel like in the moment, like, yo, like I'm just trashing my body for what? I'm doing this for what? I got this coach talking to me like this for what? I'm, like you said, getting up to go work out and I can't even walk. I can't even move. My arm don't even come up all the way. Like, yo, like, you know, is it really worth it? So I always find it interesting when we have this conversation because, you know, I think everybody, there's always something you can pull from sports. And for me, like you said, I think there's so many mental benefits of sports than maybe the physical. Football, there's not a lot of physical benefits after football, especially if you play a position, you know, in the line, linebacker, running back, things like that. When you are playing a contact position every single play, you hit every single play, not a lot of physical benefits
Yeah.
post career. But the mental benefits you spoke about, the discipline, the tenacity, the resiliency, the perseverance. One of the things I always tell people, probably the greatest lesson I learned about football is that everything can go your way. You can do everything the right way, prepare the right way, train the right way, execute and play the right way, and still lose the game. And life is the exact same way. You can do everything the right way, go the right career path, go to the right school, get the right education, meet the right people, and you can still not get the job. You can still not get that position. You can still not do this. And that's a hard lesson for people to accept, especially if you've never been through that in a more scaled thing like sports. I was part of a team where we lost out on a chance to play in a championship game because one of our teammates had knocked out the other team's quarterback at the championship banquet. All of our hard work, our season's hard work, 9-1, the best record we had in school history at that point, gone to waste for what? Over a punch, over somebody saying a simple joke in the bathroom. So, you have moments like that, and then you have to pick yourself back up and go right back there and do it all over again. Like that didn't just happen. Having that short-term memory. If you're in the game, if you give up a outside run, or if I give up a sack, you got to have that short-term memory to like, hey, look, this was a bad moment. It was a bad quarter, bad half, whatever. But you still got to get up and go out there and play the next game, play the next snap, play the next series. And there's so many mental lessons that translate to life that I appreciate about football that, I will say sometimes the physical consequences will make you challenge that and question it at times. But I will always say that overall, the mental benefits are far more lasting and far more rewarding playing, whether it's football, basketball, whatever the case may be. I know, Dr. Fitz, I know you're ready to jump in.
I want to circle back because you both brought it up, and I hear it a lot. You both talked about pain. And when I think about the impact that pain, whether it's treated or not, but the impact that pain has on one's mental health. Mm-hmm. I want to touch on that because I think, it's costing you. It's costing you dearly when you think about how your body and your mind are being punished. I'm going to mute myself because I got fighters going overhead. I need to get some noise canceling headphones, but I want you both to speak to that from a mental health perspective, please.
I'll let Zinsu go first.
Okay. So for me, I would say I've had pain in at least one knee, if not both, every day since I was about 20 years old. So even now, like even before the surgery, I just had 3 weeks ago, it's been pain every day of my life since I was about 20 years old. And I'll be honest, sometimes it can make you depressed. Like when it gets really, really bad, and you take some Tylenol or whatever over-the-counter stuff you can find and it ain't really working, then it's like, what do you do? That's where, in my opinion, the mental fortitude comes in, where it's like, okay, well, I can't sit here and give up. So I'm just going to get up and do what I can. I may not be able to do everything I wanted to do today, but today just happens to be a bad day. Now there's constant pain every day. There's some days that are worse than others where it gets like real bad. And so I've counseled people who have chronic pain, and it's made them depressed and made them not kind of want to give up on life. Because pain is it's a very awakening thing for most people. Most people don't deal with pain every day of their life, which is rare. And, I may deal with pain in my knees for the rest of my life. I don't know, but I still would not take anything away from, my experience playing football. Now, when I say football, it doesn't have to be football. It could be any sport, or it could be any extracurricular activity where you're forcing to socialize with other people. Some people are just not athletes. That's not their thing. They don't want to be out there running around, sweating, doing all that, but they might want to join a chess club or whatever club. The point is to get your kids out and socializing more so than it is they have to play a particular sport. Now, I do recommend football, for people who do want to play something, because there's a toughness that comes with it. When you get injured and you get hurt, because there's a difference between, an injury and I'm hurt. My coach used to always say that Well, if you hurt, then I mean you can play. You fine. Like it hurt a little bit, but you can play. If you're injured, then you can't really play.
Right.
But you learn to, okay, well, I broke my finger and it's 2 weeks in. There's really not a whole lot I can do about it. I'm gonna have to tape it up and play through it. Yeah, it hurts. Yeah, most people will probably be crying right now, but it is what it is. I got a game to play,
Right.
But when you translate that into life and you start to learn to push through certain things, like I'm almost kind of going stir crazy a little bit in the last 3 weeks, having to be stationary and not being able to move and doing the things that I kind of want to be able to go do because I'm used to going to the gym, working out with my guys and stuff like that. But I can't do nothing until I get cleared, and then I still have to have another surgery, and then wait a little bit longer before I can actually start working out and doing the things that I want to do. So what I would say for most people is learn to live with the pain. Like it's not the end of the world, and it's not just athletes that are dealing with pain. Mind you, I know I have friends who have different degenerative diseases that have nothing to do with them playing football or playing some type of sport or whatever. And they live with pain every day of their life, So at the end of the day, yes, pain can make you depressed. It can make you anxious. It can make you a whole lot of things. And so I always recommend people check in with the therapist no matter what. I don't care if you think your life is going great. Just check in with a therapist, see where you're at. Because sometimes we think we're in a certain place and we're not. And we find out that we're not because we as an individual, I can deceive myself into thinking I'm okay and I'm fine and I'm all good. But if I got to sit down in front of Ronnie, the clinician, and tell him what's going on, and Ronnie, the clinician, is going to be looking at me like, yeah, I know you saying you all right, but here's some evidence that's saying that you're not all right, and they help you walk you through it and look at things from a different perspective so you don't fall into the trap of, yeah, I'm good, especially men, when we deal with pain, we don't want to tell nobody, we good, everything's fine, everything's good, but had I not went to the doctor and inquired about my leg hurting a little more than usual and letting them extract my knee, there's a possibility they could have had to amputate my knee because I had an infection in my knee and I didn't know it, at the time. So I'm just walking around doing my thing and, it was pain. So I was like, okay, I deal with pain every day in my knee. So it ain't no big deal, but they wound up finding an infection and luckily they caught it early enough to where they're able to treat it. And then, I'm on IV antibiotics now for the next 3 or 4 weeks. And once that gets cleared, then I'll have to go have the surgery and have them re-implant the knee in there. So, to anybody that's listening, that's young, that wants to be an athlete, that wants to play professional, what I would say is learn to manage your life. And what I mean by that is the same thing as a topic. Is it worth it? Consider the cost. It's going to hurt. As a football player, there's going to be times where you have pain somewhere in your body pretty much every day, especially during the season. Like there's no way, that you're not going to have something. And for most people, they got pain in 2 or 3 areas of their body going into each game. Right. It's just football. It's a violent sport and it is what it is. Now maybe that's not your forte and you're like, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, play basketball, play volleyball, do something different, but just do something. Don't just have your kids sit in the house and play video games all day and I don't know how to talk to people, so they get older and can't hold a job, not because they're not intelligent, but they don't know how to manage people. Because part of, working at a job is being able to manage people and having those social skills to be able to deal with people who you may not really like. And then some people who may be, not necessarily you dislike them, but their personality just don't work well with yours. It happens, but the things you learn from sports to me completely outweigh any negative, thing. Now, I always tell my friends who are completely against football and just say, okay, you don't like football, not a big deal. Just pick another sport. Let your kid play something, do something. It don't have to be football, because I didn't learn I learned most of my lessons from football because that's the one that I played the longest. But I learned some lessons running track. I learned lessons, playing basketball. It's not about the sport in particular. It's more about the group of guys that you're around, the coaching, because they're supposed to be leading you in a certain direction, hopefully in a positive one, if you have a really good coach. So for me, even 8 surgeries in and still having pain in my knee and all the stuff that I got to go through with my body that I know was caused because of football, I wouldn't change anything.
Sensu,
Yes,
do
ma'am.
you think you would still feel the same way if you had lost your leg?
I do. I do.
Wow.
See, you have to understand the environment that I came from. There was not, so in the neighborhood that I lived in, there was two of us that made it out without going to jail or being locked up. Two.
Okay.
There was two of us. One guy went to the Marines, and I went on football scholarship. And
I was going to say, your fortitude reminds me of military. That Marine, I don't feel nothing but the rebuttal of my gun, and I'm going to serve my country, and
and I
I'm willing to
almost
lay
went
down my
into the
life.
Marines. Had I not gotten a football scholarship, I would have went into the Marines. That was my goal, because I was like, I'm not sitting around here drinking 40s on the corner with y'all. Like, I'll do something. If I fail, it ain't gonna be because I'm around here. I'm definitely getting away from here and doing something different with my life, you know. But even if I had lost my leg, at the end of the day, like, I'm okay with it, because I wouldn't be where I'm at in my life right now if it wasn't for sports. I wouldn't be the man that I am right now. I wouldn't have been able to persevere through some of the crazy things that I've been through in my life had I not played football and not learned that mental toughness that, you know, because sometimes, you know, I have friends and I'm not judging, but I have friends and I see them going through things and I try to support them. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm trying to figure a very PC way to put this.
Look, just say it. We're no filter.
In my mind, I'm like, that's some weak ass shit that you going through, like, and you over here about to fall apart. Sometimes, and so having been through some of the hardships that I've been through, I can sometimes look at other people and say, that's it. That's what you're crying about. Like, so that's not necessarily a good place to be all the time. You do need to have empathy, because not everybody is equipped to handle every load. You know, and that's, as I mature, that's what I've had to learn. Like, it's not the same. So if one person has to have 8 knee surgeries, that might make them just be in a depression for the rest of their life, and they just,
or addicted to painkillers,
or addicted to painkillers, or worse. You know, and somebody else, there's people I know that have had 10, 12 surgeries, and it ain't got nothing to do with football or any kind of sport. So there's people out there that have gone through worse than I've gone through, and there's people out there that have not gone through as much as I've gone through. So as I mature, I'm looking at things in terms of, you know, God gives us what we can handle, and every person is different. When you're going through a lot, you gotta put your head up and say, okay, God, you must think highly of me. But we're gonna get through this and just take it one day at a time. But overall, it would absolutely be worth it. Even if I lost my leg, it would be worth it.
In the instance of time, and Ronnie, I'm not making short of all the banged upness that you've gone through, but in the instance of time, because I know, Zinsu, when you first agreed to join us for the shows that you said you would participate in, I had asked you how comfortable you were in sharing a more personal part of your testimony. And I would, because I think that it's so important, because you've alluded to things that people go through, right? But I think that it's really important, as a former student athlete, professional athlete, I think that it's also important for people to understand Zinsu the man, and how all of everything that you've learned and been through and endured throughout your athletic career, connect that to your personal journey and what led you to become a counselor. And because you're an LPC and the LCDC, right? I always get those acronyms mixed up.
No worries.
But I think that it's really I think that it's imperative for our listeners to hear that part of your story, because again, folks get this tunnel vision, and like you said, life don't stop happening because you go to the pros. Life don't stop happening because you balling out in college. Life don't stop happening because you that kid in high school that's going to college on the full athletic scholarship. Life happens, and you, amidst living your dream athletically, you've had to endure some really, 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 really intense personal stuff too. And I think that it's imperative for our audience to hear that part of your story as well.
Okay, so we'll start with probably the first tragedy in my kind of like in my recollection was, you know, being a freshman in college. And, you know, I'm a freshman and I'm doing my thing, you know, excited about playing. Got a letter stating that I was not eligible to play my freshman year. That I just sit out the rest of that year. And of course, it got corrected about halfway through the season. There was a mix-up, and something happened with the clearinghouse and all that kind of stuff. So it wound up getting cleared up. But I didn't play my freshman year, so I was a little kind of like out of it a little bit, just because I wasn't able to play. I was practicing with the team, and I got a call one day, that my older sister, had committed suicide. So I go home, I go to the funeral. I'm 19 at this point. I'm still trying to figure out who I am as a man. And, you deal with this blow of death to somebody that, you were close to, which was my sister. And, without getting into the details of it, the bottom line is, she was struggling with her own mental health because of certain things that she had been through. And, I almost flunked out of school my first semester. Luckily, my academic advisor had the foresight to see, okay, well, he's got a 3 point something GPA, and he's doing really well. And then all of a sudden his sister commits suicide and he has an F in all his classes. So I just stopped going to class, to be honest with you. And they had the foresight to give me an incomplete and allow me to basically take all my final exams that I just completely skipped out on, because I was grieving. I didn't know how to handle it. So I just kind of retreated, like a lot of men do. They just kind of retreat, to their own little corner, and they just kind of deal with things on their own. So fast forward to my junior year, in the summer, going to my senior year, and I get another call that my mom passes away. She had cardiac arrest. Basically had a real bad asthma attack. And the crazy part was, I just saw my mom a few months prior to that. When you see your parents, busting they behind that hard just to make ends meet, you trying to push yourself and do something to kind of alleviate the situation. And I remember telling her, look, I'm going to the NFL. It's just another couple of years, and I'll be there. And my junior year, right before my senior year, she wound up passing away. So I went home to the funeral. Luckily, I was able to get some wise people around me that didn't have me go into that huge spin of depression that I did when my sister committed suicide. I still was depressed, but I was handling the situation, the best that I can. But with my sister committing suicide, that started my mental health journey to trying to understand what was going on in her mind and what was going on with her that made her feel like it was just hopeless. And of course, I'm a mental health therapist now, so I know a lot now that I did not know at 19, trying to figure that piece out. And during that time, I also had a friend of mine who parents called me. This is, I don't know, maybe a couple months before my sister committed suicide, and he got locked up for running around Hampton University's campus butt naked because he was smoking some weed with some people who laced it with some LSD. Of course, he had never done that before, and that just, I took them over the edge. And come to find out, he had a history of mental illness in his family, but it skipped him or had not been activated in his brain yet. But the chemical imbalance that the LSD caused shifted that chemical imbalance, and he wound up being diagnosed with manic depressive at that time, which is, we all know now, it's just bipolar disorder for the most part. So 2 significant people in my life really struggled with their mental health. And so I'm walking down this journey trying to figure some things out, and this is supposed to be the best time of my life. I'm going into my senior year in college, and, for all accounts, they're basically telling me I'm going to be drafted in the first few rounds, is what everybody's saying, and so, I go through the season trying to figure out everything. So I wind up getting drafted. I was the 51st pick overall. I get there, a few weeks in the training camp, I start having some issues with my knee. And so I go to the trainer and I'm like, hey, something's wrong with my knee. Can we get an MRI or something to make sure, everything's okay? So they sent me to go to get an MRI, and they told me to take the rest of the day off. I came back, the next day, and they were like, hey, the coach and the trainer both sat there, looked me in my face, and told me they didn't see anything on the MRI, that I was all good to go. So, okay, I said, all right, cool. Maybe just some soreness from practicing 2 or 3 times a day. It is what it is, So I go back out there to warm up, and I'm trying to go through warm ups, and I don't make it through warm ups. I go up to the coach halfway through the warm ups, and I'm like, man, I'm not a doctor, but something's wrong, with my knee. I can't put no pressure on it hardly. Every time I try to plant, Like it just buckles. Like there's something's going on. So then he looks at me, say, okay, well, we lied. Your right knee is bone on bone, but we wanted you to play through this first season first before we told you about it for you to have surgery. And I was like, what? Now, mind you, I've been hoping and praying and working my entire life towards this goal to get to the NFL. And I finally get there and get hurt and get an MRI. Then the people that I'm supposed to be able to trust. Now, mind you, I'm 22 at the time. I did not understand that this was a business, that they don't care about you individually. They just care what you can do for them. I did not grasp that concept at the time. You know, I'm thinking, oh, these my coach. They not gonna steer me in the wrong direction. But they did. They lied to me and told me they were gonna let me play an entire year with my knee being bone on bone and not say anything and just hope like I was just gonna push through the pain. And then when I told them when they told me the truth, I told them, I said, I don't really trust y'all. So now I got to go get an outside opinion. So I had to start going to an outside doctor who was not affiliated with the team so that I know that he would give me an honest opinion on what's going on with my leg. So, you know, the doctor pretty much tells me like, look, you're going to have knee problems for the rest of your life, even if you stop right now. Like if you stop today, you're still going to have knee problems for the rest of your life. And your knees will be an issue for you. He said, but if you don't stop right now, he said, you won't be walking by the time you get age 30. And I was like, what do you mean walking? He's like, yeah, you'll be in a wheelchair, guaranteed. He said, because your right knee is 100% bone on bone and your left knee is not far behind. And I'm just like, wow. So I made a decision that I was going to try to rehab it and see where it goes. Then the team comes back to me and says, well, we want you to inject your knee with basically it's a painkiller that kind of deads your nerves for about 4 or 5 hours so you can play in a game and not feel nothing. They wanted me to do that before every practice and before every game. And when I told them I wasn't going to do that, they basically gave me an ultimatum. It was like, well, if you don't do that, we're going to release you. And I said, well, y'all do what y'all feel like y'all got to do. But I feel like God has given me enough brains in my head where I can earn a living without having to, you know, destroy my body and not be able to walk for the rest of my life, you know. And that was hard. That was a dark time for me because my childhood dream, and I worked so hard to get there, it just completely came unraveled. Like literally within like 6 months, it just unraveled, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to play again. And that was a hard place to be, not realizing who I was as a man and having my identity completely tied to I'm a football player. You know, that's what I do. And now that got stripped. And so I was trying to figure out, well, who I am, who is this person, Zinsu, you know, without sports, because that's all I've known, you know. And so, you know, I'm fumbling through the dark of life, you know, trying to figure things out. And I finally just got this nagging thing in my heart about like, okay, when are you going to finish this journey for this mental health? So I started walking down that journey again, starting to figure things out. And I was like, God, you saying I'm supposed to be a mental health therapist? I'm like, man, I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that.
What you said?
Like, huh? Like, am I hearing correctly? I'm like, man. So that was because it wasn't what I planned. I had no plan on doing that. Like, but you know, it's now that I'm in it, I realized like I was created for this. Like this is what I do. Like I can do this. I can wake up and do this. Like it's not, you know, whereas other people have to struggle to do it. Like I know that God gifted me with the ability to be able to do this. Now, does that mean you don't work hard and still hone your skill? No, you still got to work hard and you still have to stir up the gift within you. But, you know, coming to that realization that I was more than just a football player was huge for me. Because it gave me a sense of, you know, identity and a sense of self-peace, because I'm like, okay, well, people are like, oh, you're not playing football no more. What you doing now? Like,
Look, whoa.
yeah, like, I don't know. We're trying to figure it out.
On the corner
You know?
drinking 40s.
And the crazy part is when I left Denver, my family begged me to come home to DC. And I said, absolutely not.
It's negative.
My dad was like, why won't you come home? I said, because I feel like if I come home, I'm going to go in the wrong direction. And
Yeah.
I don't want that for my life. I said,
Yeah.
I may not make millions of dollars being a professional football player, but I also don't want to be on the corner drinking 40s and doing nothing with my life either. So
that's real talk. And it's interesting because I literally, my son's grandmother texted me yesterday and she was like, hey, when are you coming this way? And I'm like, yeah, no plans. No plans to. And that's the thing. Like people don't get that you have to, I have so much respect for you, and I applaud how
Thank
you've
you for sharing
handled
that,
your
man.
entire journey. Yet, like, just my heart, and I said this to you probably, like, my heart goes out to you, but your resilience is just unmatched. Like, I've just, and I do this work just like you, and I'm like, you're it, man. You epitomize what resilience looks like in the athletic world and the personal world with all of this stuff. And how many athletes have comparable stories that folk
A
don't know?
lot.
You got fans and
Yeah.
coaches and trainers kicking these athletes' backs in
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
have no idea what they're struggling. When I went off on one of our previous episodes because I was so angry at how insensitive people were when Dak came out after Chase killed himself. I was like, my head almost popped off because I'm like, y'all hate the Cowboys so much that you are inhumane in hearing this man's pain, or you, oh, I was on fire. I was on
Yeah.
fire. And
That
it's
was-
like, you can't be that trifling.
You
You
can't be.
cannot
Like,
be
come
that
on.
trifling. That this man lost his brother to suicide and his grandmother in a matter of months. And you're like, oh, that I was like, you know what? And I say all that to say that's part of the reason why I'm not in a rut. And I'm home is where the heart is. I love my family. I love my friends. I have love for the community that raised me. But Salem, New Jersey is a trigger for me that
Yeah.
takes me to a headspace that I could very easily end up locked up because it just take me there.
Yeah.
It take me there, and you got to know. You have to know your capacity, and I know that there are people within the community, like you talk about people that you don't like, and folk that I say, I know bear pokers. I know bear pokers into, but I say, I'm that bear that'll maul you to death. Leave me alone. I stay away from Salem.
Yeah.
I stay away from Salem because there are folks that won't leave me alone. We ain't kids no more. You holding on to some kid stuff. Leave me alone. So you know what? You don't want to leave me alone. I'm gonna stay the heck on up out of Dodge so that I don't mess around and lose everything fooling with bear pokers that never left, don't have nothing, don't want nothing, and ain't about nothing.
Very true.
Amen.
Ronnie, I know we got to do Zinsu. I want you to tell folks first how they can get in touch with you. Let us know if you're accepting clients in your private practice. So our listening audience that's here in the DFW Metroplex, or if you're seeing clients virtually, are you licensed in DC, Maryland, Virginia, or are you just licensed in Texas? Let folks know how to get connected.
I am just licensed in Texas. However, I am working on a couple of other licenses in other states.
Yeah.
That I would like to acquire, and Maryland is one of them. That's actually one of the harder ones to get, but I think it's worth it. If you can get one in the DMV area. Their qualifications is a little higher, in my opinion, than Texas. But it's just a higher standard, which I like. But I am seeing clients virtually currently. Probably won't see clients in person for a while until after the second surgery, more than likely, unless something changes with my doctor. And they can get in touch with me. You can Google, if you Google Zinsu Toviesi, Paul Toviesi will come up, which is my middle name, which is what a lot of people, call me by. And most of my, platforms will come up, Instagram, Facebook, just things like that. So it's not hard to get in contact with me. So usually my stuff pulls up if you Google my name.
Word. Now, Zinsu, it was an honor to have you on the show, man, and to share your testimony and to share your story, man, about your resiliency and everything you've been through, and to be the man you are today, man. It was an honor to listen to it and to share this space with you, man. We really appreciate it. Hey, Dr. Pitts. So I do got to step out because I got to get to this function. And I got to get,
So we'll do picks next week.
Yeah, I do have everything on here already, but we can follow up next week, whatever. Yeah. I do got to go. Are you on with us next week, Zinsu?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I didn't
I
check. I
have
haven't checked
to.
the calendar.
Yeah, it is. Hold on. I don't think so. Wait. He's got a couple of other shows coming up, but
Yeah, I
I
can't remember if it was next week. If not, man, look, man, it was an honor. I definitely want to reach out to you personally, man, because like there's a lot of things you shared in your personal story that I definitely relate to and would just love to just, just process with you because as a former student athlete, there are a lot of things, on the physical side of it that, have taken a while for me to process and to, find a place of acceptance for, man. So I just appreciate you being on here, man, and sharing that. It was a real honor to be in this space with you all. I do got to step out real quick, but Dr. Pitts, hold it down for me. Zinsu, it was an honor, man. I appreciate you, man. We'll definitely be talking soon.
Absolutely.
So look, sir, thank you so very much for joining us today. Such a powerful, powerful contribution. I think you are on next week because it's the 100th episode, and I specifically asked you if you would come on for that, but I'll double check the official schedule because I don't have the official schedule in front of me. Okay. But look, folks, wow, what another, powerful, powerful show, powerful topic. Zinsu, if you don't mind, I'm going to have you sign us off. Leave us with 2 nuggets. What are 2 key tips that you would give our student athletes at the high school and collegiate level, and even our professional athletes? What are 2 pearls that you would leave them with today as we close out?
The first pearl would be seek therapy. Even if things aren't going wrong in your life, even if you think everything is fine, just seek some therapy. Get somebody you can talk to and be real with, and that's not always your friends or your family or your mom or your dad. You can't be real with everybody. Not everybody can handle that. But when you go to a therapist, you have somebody that you can tell your innermost issues with, because we all got them. I don't care how much a person smiles and walks around upbeat and laughing and all. We all got stuff inside that we gonna have to deal with at some point. So the sooner you start to deal with it, the better off you're going to be. Secondly, is you got to have a backup plan. No one can tell the future. And it doesn't mean you can have the greatest talent, but if you break your leg in 4 places and they tell you can't play whatever it is, you can't run track no more, then it's over. You got to figure something else out. What do you want to do? Do you want to coach? Do you want to, what is it that you want to do? Don't get caught flat-footed if it doesn't work out, if your plan A doesn't work out. There's a lot of guys that I went to college with, that I went to high school with that had the same aspirations as me. They wanted to go to the NFL and do this and do that. And I made it. Now, I didn't stick around as long as I would have liked, but some of them didn't get drafted. They didn't get invited anywhere. And what happened to them, they went through the same thing that I went through, where they were trying to find themselves. Some of them took the drugs real bad, and then now kind of coming back around and starting to get their life back together. Because as a man, we find our identity in what we do, what we do for a living a lot of times. So you have to learn, who am I? Aside from football or basketball or track or whatever sport that I'm doing, even my employment, whatever I do for a living, who am I? And when you can find that and be secure in who you are as a man and as a woman, then if the sports gets stripped from you, it's not that it's not going to hurt, but it's not going to break you, and it's not going to shatter your life to the point where you head down a wrong path for the rest of your life. You'll be prepared, and you'll be able to bounce back from that and do something different. And that's what I think I didn't. That's why I think I went wrong. I didn't really have a backup plan. My mind was just NFL or bust, period. That's it.
Right. And we've actually done a show on that. It's like, okay, life after football. Now what? Whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever the case may be. Wow. Thank you so very much.
Thank you
What
for
a
having me. It was a
powerful
pleasure.
contribution. And it's an honor. It really, really is. Look, folks, we're excited because next week is the 100th episode. The 100th episode of House Talk PreGame. Wow. So we are super excited. We have an awesome show planned for you next week. Can't wait to be back here and jump into some more much needed discussion.
Absolutely.
Much needed discussion. And we thank you, sir. I'm going to follow up with you just to double check to see if we have you confirmed for next week. But again, thank you so much.
Either way, if you need me.
Okay. Speedy recovery. Take care of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sit back and chill and watch some football.
Tell your better half I said hi.
I will tell him. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful Saturday, everybody. We'll see you back next week. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.